We're about 5 months away from the launch of Football Manager 2023, so I thought what better time than now to release my own wish list of features. This is 8 things that FM23 needs to have. Hello there, my name is Anderz and welcome to the channel. Today I'll be running down my list of 8 features or improvements that I hope FM23 will have when it's released towards the end of the year. Now, I know that there are a few wishlist articles and videos doing the rounds at the moment, so there's bound to be a little bit of an overlap between this and something else you may have seen, but these are the main things that I personally would love to see when the game gets released. Number 1. We need a replacement for FM Touch, don't we? We need a new game mode with the full game, which is stripped all the way back so that some of the more in-depth features and more time-consuming features are pulled out, and it creates a more streamlined and quicker experience for the player. Now, this could be achieved by automatically delegating some of the more time-consuming tasks to staff, like training. Get training all the way to staff. Don't worry about training, you're playing a quick version of the game. Limit the number of leagues that you load up. Cap the number of players that get created when the database is created. Make things quicker. Now, by creating a light version of the game, you get 2 massive benefits. The first is to replace FM Touch, which had a great core fan base and gives fans of that style of the game a way to replicate it. But you also create a fantastic way to ease in brand new players who might otherwise get overwhelmed by the incredible depth that a full fat version of Football Manager has to offer. Bring back the simulate results, the instant result button, so you don't need an extra skin just to do that. Have that included in this version of the game. It would go a long way to improving the experience for a big chunk of the player base. Number 2. Tweaks to tactics. The tactics screens haven't really had to change much in recent iterations of the game. I don't think we've seen a massive change really since we got rid of sliders, which was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I can't remember, it's a long time ago now. But I think that one big change that I personally, and I'm sure many others from looking around the community, would love to see would be how the roles and instructions that you've selected within your tactic impact the formation that you've got throughout different phases of play. Obviously, we've already got the base starting formation. This is what you see on the left-hand side of the screen every time you go into tactics. But I'd love for this to be replicated, so when you click on in possession, or out of possession, or in transition, those different phases of play have got a view of how the formation is impacted by all the different roles and instructions, and every little tweak that you make, how it impacts the players on the field. So if you've got a back 4 and you've got attacking fullbacks in possession, they're going to be pushed up a lot further up the field. But when you're in possession, maybe your defence has dropped more, you've got more men back behind the ball, and then how things develop in transition as well. It'd be really interesting to see on paper before you get into the match engine what your tweaks are doing to the formation. It'd be great to get under the hood and see how those certain tweaks and instructions, maybe you change one thing and see how it impacts, change another little thing over here, see what that impacts. It would be really good to see that impact the actual play during games and before games. I think it'd be great to have that visualized. Maybe nothing actually needs to change under the hood, maybe it just needs to be visualized up front before you get into the match engine. Number 3. I'd love to see more support for retro databases, and honestly, the pre-game editor in general needs more support from the developer. Sports Interactive have got this great tool, but it could be even better. Honestly, I'd love an official retro database, but personally, I think that's probably running before we can walk. It's probably asking a little bit too much right now to go from nothing to a full experience of an official retro database. Let's take baby steps. Let's start by having the ability to set the start date or start year of a database. It would be incredible to play the Mad Scientist 1992-93 database, which I did a first look about, which I'll click up there, and I've done a series. There's links in the description up above everywhere about that. But I'd love to be able to play that and the game to say 1992 instead of 2021. It just makes things more immersive. I think it should be easier to adjust the countries that are there within the game at any point in time, to adjust the continental and international competition structures, so you've not got the Cup Winners' Cup, for example, just functioning like the Conference League. Back in the early 90s, the Cup Winners' Cup was the second tier of European football. It was all about those who won domestic cups. The clue is in the name. being able to set that up would be really incredible, increase the realism, increase the immersiveness of these databases. Basically, I'd love for Sports Interactive to make the mad scientist's life so much easier and allow those great databases to be even more immersive. If they could take an old version of the game, say they take FM05, the first ever Football Manager, and just take that database, make a few tweaks to update it so it works in the FM23 environment, and then package it up as an official retro database and send it on its way. That would just be incredible. How incredible would it be to just when you're selecting your database at the start of the game, click a little drop down, click 2005, and boom, you've gone back 18 years. That would be great. Let's do it. SI, get it done. Number 4. Number 4 is the subscribe button. If you're enjoying this video, please hit it so that you don't miss out on any future content here on the channel. And I'd also love to hear from you down in the comments below. Is there anything obvious that I've missed off this list? Please watch the end of the video so you see what's on the list before making a comment. Or is there anything that you're passionate about seeing? Anything that I've missed or something that maybe I've included that you think is well wide of the mark and you don't want to see in FM23? Let me know in the comments down below. But before you do, like the video, subscribe to the channel, it helps out massively. Now, number 4 is actually all about set pieces. Now, currently we've got this little bit of control over the attacking and defending routines for corners. There's a little screen where you can move players around and set up a few scenarios. It's okay, it's a little bit tired, it needs improvement basically. You can set who takes your free kicks, whether it's a direct or indirect, left side, right side. There's a few options, but it's not enough. It really is not enough. That's all you've got. Wouldn't it be absolutely great if this screen here, where we set up the corner routines, is revamped and given a complete new life? It would be incredible to have more freedom, allow a little bit more creativity. Left side of the pitch, right side of the pitch, direct, indirect, close to goal, far away from goal. How do you set the routines up? It's split across the different areas of the pitch. It's split about how you defend as well. So how many men do you have in a wall if the ball is in a certain position? Do you have a chap lying on the floor? It's all up to the design of your routines, and it'd be great to see them come to life in the match engine. Let's also assign a member of the coaching team. Let's get a member of staff to lead the training of said routines. Now, whether that's yourself or your first team coach, or maybe a new staff role of a set pieces coach. Now, this obviously is only available to massive clubs who have got the ability to hire members of staff who are specialists in set pieces and do nothing but work on set piece routines. I'm not expecting your regular Vanarama national size to be able to hire a set piece coach, but your Man Cities of this world, they definitely can. So include it in the game. Get an extra staff role in there. Get a member of staff who is a specialist coach for set pieces to manage your routines. You can set them up yourself, but that coach takes them in training. It's certainly an area of the game that I feel could do with fleshing out a lot more. And if it is as full and enhanced as this, it would be a great area of the game. It really improve the way you create your set pieces and your routines and bring your tactics to life. Number 5. Transfers. I really like some of the minor tweaks to transfers in FM22. I love the changes to how values and asking prices are shown in the game. They're more of a range now, they're more realistic. There's not a single price that's then completely ignored when you make a transfer offer. But I still think there's plenty of work to be done in this space. I think the logic for some of the AI transfers could do with some tweaks. It very often feels like you see AI transfers which don't make a massive amount of sense. They don't fit in with the direction of the manager, their preferences, the DNA of the club. I think it sometimes can go completely against that DNA. I also find that the valuations of players with 1 year left on their contracts is sometimes not sufficiently adjusted compared to the same player when they've got a long time remaining on their deal. I've often found that clubs are waiting out for the full asking price and never receiving it, ultimately losing the player on a free transfer when they could have accepted a discount rate and got some return on their investment. There's also elements of selling players which I find very frustrating. For example, when a club comes in with a non-negotiable, low-ball offer for a player who's not on the transfer list, he's not in the final year of his contract, he's got no morale issues whatsoever, he's very happy, but all of a sudden they come in 10 million below his asking price, and this very often upsets a player. If a player's not playing every single game, he's not in the starting 11 every single game, and a decent sized club comes sniffing, he's interested in talking to them, but they've offered a massive discount to what his price is. There's no way you're going to accept it. There's no way you'd have the offer accepted if you went in at that price. But why then does the player get upset? I want to be able to approach the player straight after rejecting an offer and tell them exactly why we've not accepted this bid. I want to give them a resolution before they come to me asking for it. These conversations are in the game. The player gets upset and comes to you and says, I wanted to speak to Real Madrid. Why didn't you let me? Oh, the asking price was too low. Well, I think it was okay. You get these conversations already. I want to be able to go, look, we've rejected this bid, and this is why. This is the asking price we want. If they come in with a bid like this, we'll be willing to listen to offers. Now, you can do this. This happens, but your players get upset first, and you're on the back foot, and you've got to try and mitigate it with some sort of promise, maybe even end up selling the player for a lot less than you really want to, or what they're really worth. Now, obviously, the player can still get upset if you go to them, look, we've rejected this bid, I want 30 million for you, not 20. They can turn around and go, well, 30 million is ridiculous. There's no way I'm getting that. Or accept 20. That can still happen. There's no reason why that can't still happen, but at least it gives you the opportunity to get ahead of any situation and remove or prevent unnecessary unhappiness to some players. They'll still get unhappy if you're unrealistic, but at least you've had the chance to tell them why. Number 6. The ability to manage different teams within a club, and only that team. Now, if you're managing the first team, you can also take control of the under-18s, but you can't only control the under-18s, and that doesn't make much sense. This feature fits perfectly with the introduction of the women's side of the game, which we know is coming at some point, and it would have featured on this list if we didn't already know that. It's going to come to Football Manager soon, whether that's FM23 or FM24 or maybe even FM25, we don't know, but we do know it's coming. Now, that introduction, we all know that women's teams are part of the same clubs as men's teams. You've got the women's first team and the men's first team. So in order to control the women's first team, you shouldn't have to also be able to control the men's first team. You don't need to control them both. You want to control just one. So why can't you then? We know that's going to happen. That's not going to be a limitation. The women's side of the game is going to be separate. You're going to be able to manage the Chelsea women's first team and not have to manage the Chelsea men's first team. We know that. So why not take that a step further? Why not bring it down to just managing the under-18s? Why not just be able to manage the under-23s or the reserves or the B or C teams? However the club is made up, you should be able to just manage this team here. You should be able to be hired as the under-18s manager. You can hire someone as a member of staff just for that role. They don't have control over the under-13s. They don't have control over the under-23s as well. They just specifically work with the under-18s. I think it would create some really interesting new dynamics to the game. So you've got to manage a squad without being able to make any transfers, with players becoming available, not being available, getting called up to the first team, dropping down from the first team. There's so many different dynamics and part of squad management that you just are not able to manage at the moment. It also creates the opportunity for some realistic career progression. Say you're hired to coach the under-18s and you do well enough. You get promoted to manage the B team. You win a minor league because you're managing the B team, and the opportunity comes up at the first team. Of course, you're going to be top of that list. You're already within the club structure. You already know the club. You get promoted to the first team from the B team. You can manage different teams all within the same club and progress through the ranks. It makes sense and it needs to happen. Number 7, scenario mode. A quick play game mode where you're giving a limited amount of time to achieve a certain goal. So this could be a fight against relegation scenario. You take a club with 5 games left and you're 5 points back from safety. How do you manage it? What do you do in that situation? You're dropped in at the deep end. You need to win. Now, there's also the win the league, despite an injury crisis. So maybe you're the biggest club in the league, but half your team is injured. How do you manage that? You've got a certain limited amount of games to try and turn things around. There's tons of possibilities. I've just thought of 2 off the top of my head. I'd expect the game to come packaged with loads of scenarios, but I'd also love to see a scenario editor within the pre-game editor to allow the community, which is incredibly creative, to come up with their own scenarios for other managers to try and complete. I'd love this to be a new game mode. It adds a completely different dynamic to managing a side. You've got a limited amount of time. You've got a specific target to aim for. There are no mistakes possible to be made. And it could also introduce competition between players as they look to beat each other in a controlled scenario. So say I managed to score 90 points in this scenario, but my friend over here, he gets 91. That's going to make me want to go back in and play again and try and get 92. There could be leaderboards. It could be a really immersive element of the game with such a simple little change. Just make a quick play mode with limited games available and it would do wonders. Number 8. The final item on my list. It's revamping the national team management side of the game. This is an area of the game that I often feel is overlooked, both by players and the developers honestly. Now, usually it goes unloved by many players, and I think that is criminal. I think with a few improvements, this could completely change. I see the fantastic change that was introduced for deadline day within FM22 as the template here. A few minor changes under the hood and a massive change to the presentation can go a long way. National team management could be the deadline day of FM23. We need to make international breaks and tournament football feel more immersive, feel like a bigger deal than they currently do. You can breeze through a World Cup and it doesn't even feel like you've been there. You need to change the way the game looks, change the way the game feels. If you're just managing a national team, most of the year can go quicker than it already does. But those international breaks, those tournament breaks, need to be more spread out, slowed down, made more immersive. As an international coach, whether that's as the full national team manager or any of the youth teams, you need to be able to set up training camps and training routines during the international breaks and particularly during tournaments. You need to set your squad base up in a certain area and have full control over what happens. I also think that squad dynamics need to be introduced to the national team as well, and they should be particularly important during tournaments. It would create another dynamic to squad selection, so you're not just picking the best players and the best fit for your formation. Maybe you have to limit the number of new call-ups to avoid disrupting the national team squad dynamics. Do you have to pick club teammates of your star players to make them happy, to get the morale already at a certain level? If you've got the best players but they don't like each other, they don't talk to each other, you're not going to win the World Cup. We've seen this in the real world. We've seen France a few World Cups ago with an incredible side but mismanaged, no communication, falling out early on in the tournament. Having improved squad dynamics would go a long way to helping an international side in this situation. There's probably a million ways you could improve the experience of scouting players within the national pool as well, to be able to know who you should be calling up, who's playing well. There are elements of the game that have gone untouched and really could do with improvements. One thing is for certain, national team management could be a lot more fun than it currently is now. Some people enjoy it, but a lot of people find it a little bit of a chore. Now, a few tweaks to the presentation, along with game dynamics and mechanics that are already there, existing in the game, just becoming available for national teams, it could go a long way in making a national team save something that every single player is interested in and will enjoy, and not something you just do alongside your club management when you feel like winning a World Cup. And there we are, we've reached the end of my wish list. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I've missed, and tell me what your one big feature request is for FM23. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Goodbye. Well, hey, you've made it to the end of the video, and hang on, it's a subscribe button. Tap on this. Even if you've done it already, just try it, see what happens. And then if you're hanging around, have a look at these. One of these. Check out some of this amazing content. You won't regret it. I'll see you next time.